All right, welcome back to Follow Through with LVB. We're here in a new part of the Delta, what's it called? Delta House? Delta Hotel here in Toronto. I have two very special guests today. I've got fellow teammate from the Netherlands, Paul van Meekeren, and we've got Namibian cricketer, captain extraordinaire, Gerhard Erasmus. Guys, welcome to the GT Diaries on Follow Through.
There we go.
Thank you very much, Logan.
That's it. Are you excited? I literally asked you probably an hour ago, but now we're here. It looks like I've got some sort of gear. Looks half legit. But yeah, how many podcasts have you guys been on, I guess, live in the studio that's not Zoom?
Probably my third, fourth, maybe. Not that often. I've done radio once with BBC.
Yeah.
That was fun. And then me and Van der Merwe, who you know, Dutch teammate, we did one in the ILT20. We did a little thing. I haven't even seen it. Just a few snippets, but that's about it.
Yeah, Gerhard?
Not really a podcast with a peer, but obviously like interviews and stuff. Try to avoid them a little bit. Scared you say the wrong thing.
Yeah. Well, it is the danger of that. Those like little 10-minute or 5-minute radio interviews. There's normally something that you're either promoting or you've got to talk about a game. And quite often, as sports people and within a team, you've got to be really, you can't really say honesty. You've got to be pretty, generic. The boys worked hard. It just wasn't our day yesterday, and I felt like we'll go back to the drawing board most of the time.
Political correct.
Exactly. Yeah. PC. Not saying that we're going to be too down and dirty in this one, but long form conversation, you can often just speak a bit more freely, explain things a bit more in detail. And the thing with the GT20, we've got time. We're all the teams are in the same hotel, and so it's cool to be able to fill in some time and get some interviews done, which is cool. But today, well, just the first note, we are right beside a highway. We've got an airport beside us. We've got an aircon on this side as well. So there might be some random sounds in the background, but for the most part, we're going to get the nice tones of Paulie and Gerhard as well. And first of all, we're here, we're associate cricketers, and we're going to talk about associate cricket. And this is, franchise cricket for us, and it's kind of few and far between for associate cricketers. But it's pretty cool that we are here and getting the opportunity to play on a world stage like this. Growing up in the Netherlands, in Namibia, what was the goals growing up when you're thinking, will I be a franchise cricketer? I guess it wasn't really a thing when you're younger.
Didn't exist, but my goal was probably to make the first team in club cricket. I mean, there was a Dutch team, but not really exposure to it. No media, no TV, even not international cricket like Australia, England. So yeah, your heroes growing up were your first team players. That for me was at Rood en Wit. And that's what you wanted sort of to do, get into the first team and have a long career in the top class.
Yeah. Yeah, Gerhard?
Yeah, more of the same. Like, I remember a big inspiration for us back then was the 2003 World Cup, where Namibia had qualified for the first time. So from day one, I was always just playing in a World Cup, I guess. Not having much domestic competition and not really having, first law structure or anything like that. Your stepping stone was probably like a little bit further forward. You would always think about like playing for Namibia and representing them at a World Cup. So yeah, that was it growing up. And then a few years on, it would have been just to like sort of trump the rugby team, I guess, trying to be the best sport in the country with there being so few people. Everyone's sort of fighting for the same place, I guess. And soccer and rugby, growing up being bigger sports than cricket in Namibia, it was always probably one of those goals to like make cricket a big thing.
So yeah, what is the main sport in Namibia?
Yeah, soccer would be.
Soccer.
Yeah. And then more or less like South Africa, a bit of a rugby culture. Just in schools at least, there's much more of a rugby culture than a cricket culture. But it's changed a little bit over the last 5 years, I believe. Thankfully to some good performances by our team. I thought we've brought a slightly, a bit more of a better brand of sport across to the people, and they now enjoy watching cricket a lot, and cricket successes have brought us a little bit of international sort of vibe to it and stuff. We play more games than the rugby and the cricket and the soccer guys do. So yeah, it's something for the local people to come watch, and especially on TV as well, having more broadcasted games. I think it's now being sent out to the people a little bit more.
Yeah. Is there any? Well, the Olympics are on at the moment. Are there any Olympians from Namibia competing?
Yeah, we got 4 at the moment. Unfortunately, our sort of star Olympian over the last couple of years didn't qualify for it. A lady sprinter by the name of Christine Mboma. So that was a little bit disappointing for us over the last couple of months. But I mean, that's the way of sport. It's ups and it's downs, and yeah, we've got cyclists there, boxers there.
Nice.
Yeah.
So cricket is definitely, and it's been noticeable from the Netherlands' point of view. Seeing Namibia more at the World Cups. You've played the last 3 or 4 World Cups, and then your presence on the world stage. You guys you play a lot of cricket together, and so every time I see a scorecard, it's always like a similar lineup, and so that combination. Whereas with us, we don't often get the same side out every time. So is that? Do you think that's been the benefit of just having the same side guys and knowing their roles? How have you? How's that? Is that the key to success for Namibia cricket? Around having a similar group of guys and just getting together, or what was?
Yeah, I think that's been the key to a 4-year period of success. But if you look at it in the longer term, you definitely want a bigger squad and a squad competing for places. I can kind of, with a bit of honesty, say at the moment that's probably where we're at, is a regrowth. It's sort of a bit of a period which we got to go through, where we rebuild again and grow new talent and get the squad, to 20 or 25 members competing for those 14-man squads. Especially in the bowling front, you're bound to have a couple of injuries, and if we do, then we're relying on inexperienced next bunch of bowlers, and it's not always fair to blood a bowler straight into ODI cricket. So yeah, it's been, as you say, probably one of the positives over the last 4 or 5 years, knowing all the other associate nations. The players are spread far and wide. They're not in the same city. We all live in the same city. We got a home base, home ground where we train, and sessions in between are all together. So that's really created a tight knit bunch of guys that gym together, train together. They know each other's strengths in and out. They throw sidearm to each other for 2 hours straight. So that's really helped over the last 4 years, is having that togetherness. Yes.
No, it's noticeable. You guys have been, every time now we play Namibia, there's a definite feel of, all right, these guys are going to play together. These guys are going to be competitive. They might not have the out and out quick bowlers or the best batsmen in the world, but they have a similar style to us, where we just try and squeeze as much as we can each game. So for you, Paulie, the development around the Namibian cricket, how have you seen the Netherlands cricket since the time you started to where it is now? What's been your kind of experience?
Yeah, it's completely different. I think starting about 10 or 12 years ago was just the guys on tour and playing a bit of cricket, obviously trying to win, but it wasn't all about the on-field performances at times, I reckon. And then, the last few years, as a team, I feel like we operate at a very professional level. The way we train, the way we approach the games, prepare for games. It's not like being a small team and just having fun when we come up against the big teams. It's like trying to compete and actually beat the guys. Where maybe growing up, some of the Dutch teams in the past, it's like qualifying for the World Cup was the big ticket, and then it was just enjoying the World Cup. Where I feel like qualifying for us now is expected and not like a surprise. And when we get to the tournament, it's like, just go enjoy and see what happens. We're expected to win games, especially in the T20 format. So yeah, we had some success over the last couple of years, I think, in both formats. But it's now doing that on a regular basis, year in, year out, and at every World Cup we go to, and keep developing, and next time hopefully qualify for a semi-final. I think if you look at the group that was in Australia, we felt we actually probably missed out. Probably could have won 1 or 2 games more, which probably would have made us play a semi-final, which would have been exceptional. But I think that's how the team operates now. It's not like, we lost, but we're actually disappointed because at times, we feel like we're ahead in the game, or, we just know we didn't reach to our level. I think that's the big difference in the last 10 years. It's such a professional setup in how we operate. But yeah, that's where we are, and hopefully we can grow the game back home, and get the support that we need to even get through to a higher level.
I think part of the success was that Super League year or so of playing the top nations in the world. Like we got badly beaten. The 4-9-8 game against England in Amsterdam. There was a number of games where you have like one chance. If you drop that chance, or if you don't get that partnership, whatever it was, the game was done. And then you spend the next 20, 30 overs as a slow death against, England or West Indies or an Afghanistan. But the after effects is that when we went to those qualifying tournaments, we had, without us really kind of knowing, we had leveled up, and our standards had got higher, so that when we did play teams that are ranked below us, we knew how the best did it, and so then we try to do it against those teams. And I think there's a difference. There's World League Cricket 2, and then there's the top league, and obviously you guys have been in that World League Cricket 2 for the last few years, and now we're in it, having to compete and get up the rankings. So what is the reality of associate cricket compared to a full member? How could you explain it in kind of simple terms, and what's it like being from Namibia and being from a Netherlands?
Well, I think the first thing you mentioned there is actually getting exposure. So getting games on that level exposes you to different cricketers, different ways of thinking. Like the margin of errors in terms of skills just becomes so much smaller. And we had that same feeling with the T20 World Cups, where we got badly beaten against Sri Lanka in our first T20 World Cup game way back, and then eventually end up beating them in the next T20 World Cup. So that gap can be filled, because it's just a human thing that you need a little bit of exposure to a quicker game, a higher level of sort of intensity. As I said, the margins of error become so much smaller. So yeah, basically getting games firstly. That makes a big difference. We've been fortunate enough to have a number of quality games against sides like SA emerging side, Zimbabwean A side, the teams from Pretoria and Johannesburg like Titans and them coming over. So we've had good fixtures over the years, but it just doesn't quite compare to the international playing against in England, playing against Australia. So that's probably the first thing. And the next thing, which Paul probably also can comment on, is just the number of resources, the amount of players you're able to contract, the number of grounds you have, the number of just purely the setup of your home association. That's obviously a tough thing for our boards to handle, and probably will be until there's not a lot more money being pumped into associate cricket. It'll probably always be a challenge.
Yeah, I think the same. I think your point that you made with the Super League that we played in, and I think the majority of the Super League, again, what you said earlier, is we didn't have the full strength at times, but it gave that exposure to other guys who play the majority of the cricket in the Netherlands, which actually created a lot of depth. So we've got actually a good bunch of group that we can select from now. But it's about how do we keep these guys in the game, and then you come back to the resources, the funding, and obviously, I don't think it's a world secret that we feel like, or a lot of countries feel like, that the way the funding is done is a bit crooked. But you got to deal with it, and I think it's up to the Dutch or Namibian associations themselves to maybe take a bit more risk and find other resources and do some out of the box thinking to get more resources in and support the players in that way. And I feel like, I don't know how it's in Namibia and within the playing squad, but I think as a team, and our coaching staff. That's what we do. That's how we became successful and get to the next stage, to be to have that out of the box thinking and training in different ways, and getting the maximum out of the small resources that we've got. And I think it would be very exciting. I think where the game is now, and the amount of money that's going on a global level, I mean, there are opportunities, I think, for the smaller teams to get something back out of that. But you need to come up with a bold idea, or be a bit brave and go for it.
Yeah, no, it's super tough. It is. The reality is most associate cricket boards get a very small amount of money, and then they've got to spread that across, a whole cricketing environment. And it is tough to, we don't probably have the amount of people in the office to find those resources, or, some people are doing 4 or 5 jobs just in their own job, compared to maybe that split between 3 people. And it's just, it's tough, because as a player, you can see how hard they're working, but it's tough, because we go up against these other teams and we see the reality. I'm fortunate enough to go back to New Zealand and see the resources back there, and how it's run from a small country, but they've obviously got to a level now that they're able to run at a high level and compete at a high level, going to World Cup finals and constantly having a consistent squad and things like that. But it is tough. Like and the way that we play cricket, most of the time we play, is we have to win that game. Every game you play, it's like it's a do or die win, because if you don't win the game, funding for the next year, you don't qualify for World Cup, you lose resources, and it's just make or break every time you play, or you go into a World Cup and you still have to qualify into the World Cup. And I think that's one of the biggest difference to a full member nations, whereas they're playing a series, but they're already going to the World Cup. They're just trying to play to win that series. They've still got 5, 6, 7, 8, the next 4 years sorted of a series. Associate cricket is that we're literally playing for the next year of matches, funding, contracts, which adds a different element to the games, which probably helps us maybe in bigger games, because we're used to that do or die. But it is stressful at the same time, because you can feel the pressure of the weight of the cricketing environment, knowing that this game we have to win, or else some of the A guys are not going to go on the A tours next year, or some of the funding's not going to be there. So it's tough. Have you had a game which you can remember that it was literally riding on that point?
Oh yeah, we had plenty of those types of games. I remember one specific moment on the Wondrous ground at Windhoek, where we were playing Oman, and I can't particularly recall the perfect like the points table and all of that, but it was basically a do or die type of scenario, whether you're qualifying for Division 2 or staying up or staying down. And I still remember, I think it was Kalimula that bowled from the top end, and we needed about 10 with 2 wickets left. And it was just pacing through my mind all the time. What shot am I going to play? Am I going to take the risk now with the tail ender at the other end? Like, what's going to be the consequences of this shot if I get out? And it was obviously the lap shot, and I just decided to go for it. And I still remember getting the bottom half of the bat and the ball flying towards 45, and I'm thinking, oh shit, this is going down now. We're probably out and probably don't have jobs next year. And I don't know who the fielder was, but he parried it and it went for 4. And we end up winning the game and stayed up. But it's moments like that as an associate cricketer, you do remember that it's sort of like a World Cup final type of intensity that you have, but just without anyone knowing about it, I guess.
Yeah.
So, I still remember, I think it was probably Peter De La Pena or someone wrote an article on that, and he was speaking about how a shot like that had the consequences of me either going back to a working full-time job in law or being able to have a cricket career.
Crazy.
Yeah, so moments like that, you remember I've had other couple of games where you're chasing, say, a lowish score, like 200 on dodgy tracks, and ball starts keeping low, and their good left arm spinner has 10 overs left, and you just know it's going to be that type of scrap. Plenty of those games.
Man, Paulie?
Yeah, I reckon the one that stands out was the 50 over World Cup qualifier in New Zealand. Didn't make it through to the final group stage, but we still had to finish in like a top 8 spot, whatever it was, and we played Kenya in Christchurch, and I think we got about 300. They had to chase it in 38 overs or something, and nothing went our way. They just swinging the bat, and everything went their way. I dropped a catch, which Mr. Peter Bourne, who's back in New Zealand, reminded me of for like the last 8 years. Yeah. Dropping a catch. There was rain around, but we were behind the DLS, so we didn't want to get off the park, and then the ball became slippery, so it became harder to bowl, and we just couldn't stop the bleeding, and we got knocked out. We dropped back to World Cricket League 2, lost funding, lost ODI status for 4 years. Pretty dark day in Dutch cricket, I reckon. And then the consequence of that is that we went to Namibia, lost one of the first games against Nepal, lost against Namibia. I think Jerry actually made some runs against us. And then it became one of those tournaments where it's a net run rate game. I think our last group stage was against Uganda, which I think we bought them out for 80 or 90, and Stefan Myberg, I think if I remember, chased it pretty much down in 5 or 6 overs. So that was good, but then we still needed maybe you guys to lose the last day or someone else. And
PNG, Papua New Guinea or someone on the United's field. But also by like a massive margin. Both of the games had to go by such a big margin. It was practically impossible, and it happened. Yeah,
everything went our way. I remember I couldn't follow the score, and just falling asleep because it was so exhausting, like the whole week, playing 2 days, 1 day off, 2 days, 1 day off, and then another game before sort of the final next day. But the stress and sort of the heat that we had there was just like too much. I fell asleep and then kind of woke up probably 2-3 hours after the other game finished and saw all the guys celebrating and coming down, which is quite funny. But that's I think the tightness of associate cricket, where probably a couple $1 million in funding can be decided on net run rate and one or two back games. So it's what's the English word? It's cutthroat.
Yeah, brutal. Cutthroat.
Brutal, yeah, there we go.
Move there. Maybe just move. So time that part, and then just move it down. So just down a little bit lower. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
And so
I still remember one of my best mates.
Hello.
His name's John Bredenkamp, and he was from South Africa. Played for Boland. He got a Namibian passport, and he came straight into one of these tournaments. And he'd played a decent level of cricket, playing first class cricket in South Africa. Played universities cricket, so he'd played in like some tough tournaments that are close and everything. But after day 3 of one of these tournaments, he just looked at me and Craig Williams, and it was like, "What is this?" And needless to say, he never played cricket again after World Cricket League 2 qualifier. He's now living a great life in Norway with a Norwegian wife and kid.
Living a good life.
Yeah.
Not playing back to back. No, 50 over games.
And the man loved cricket. He was absolutely besotted with cricket like me. And we always joke about it that was his last tournament, just because of the gravity of how associate cricket works.
Yeah.
But it's quite funny because now with the GT20, obviously it's a tight schedule, back-to-back games, maybe 1 day off or 2 days off, and then play another game, day off, and then 3 days in a row. And we've got a few world-class players here who are not used to it at all. And I was like, wow, this is kind of standard for associate cricket. This is what we're used to. And it's like guys play 1 or 2 T20s, like, oh, no, I need a couple of days rest. And like, well, we go again tomorrow normally. So yeah, we're happy.
A game that I remember was the 2022 World Cup in Geelong. And so the way it works is that, the top 8 teams are already qualified. And then there's another 8 teams that are trying to compete for 4 more spots. and we were in the pool with Sri Lanka, Namibia, and UAE. We just go over the line against UAE. We
crept through.
Crept through past Namibia, and then we lose to Sri Lanka in the last pool game. Namibia bet UAE.
Sri Lanka.
Oh, bet Sri Lanka in first game. Unfortunately lost to us, and then we're playing UAE in the last game. Anyway, we're watching the game, and UAE scrapped like 140 or 150, and we're like, okay, that's not a bad total on Geelong. Geelong was a funny like AFL ground and long outfield, long straight, which we'll get to in a bit. And then you guys, Namibia were 70 for 7, chasing 140, 150. And I remember running back, because I was watching the game at the ground. I ran back to the hotel. Scotty Edwards ran back to the hotel. The boys were already in the room, and we were already having a couple of drinks. And guys were kind of like, "Oh, this is so great! This is awesome! This is, we're high fiving, and we're going, oh man, I can't believe we're qualifying to the next round. This is going to be an awesome tournament all around Australia." And lo and behold, David Visa, the nightmare of David Visa, just started chipping away, and he's 6'2", 3", just standing there with his axe, and he's just slowly making his way. And I was like, and as he was kind of getting 20, 30, 40, now you're kind of 110, 120 and then Ruben Troubleman kind of chipped in a little bit, and it was dead silence in our room. We were just quiet, and we were all sitting around watching this, going, "What's happening? This is ridiculous." We were uppity. Half an hour later, we're dead quiet in that room watching that game. And then Muhammad was from UAE, doesn't bowl, came on to bowl death against David Visa, who's on 60 odd. You guys are kind of 7. I don't know what you were, and David hits the ball, goes the long straight. The guy catches it right on the boundary, like it was just, joy for us.
But he dropped David over before, and David hit one straight up in the air. I'm pretty sure.
I wasn't watching any of it.
I'm pretty sure he hit one straight up, got dropped, and was like, okay, now it's game over.
Well, that's the difference between, like, you guys unfortunately didn't go through, but then we're the opposite, where we just can't believe that we've got through, we survived that, and then we went on to play the rest of the World Cup and beat South Africa, beat Zimbabwe, and have a great time. But with the margin is so thin between us going through 2021, it was the opposite. You guys bet us, and you guys went through to the next round and had a great experience, and then we went home with our tails between our legs after kind of a horrible experience, COVID, every bubble. We just didn't play well. We had a great team, but we were just stinking.
I still got a picture of that Namibia game in.
Oh my gosh!
In Australia.
So we had Timmy van der Gooden.
That was us.
We had Tim van der Gooden. He was in another room, but he was watching on Cricket Info because they were like 30 seconds ahead, and the rest of us were watching on the TV. And he locked himself in the bathroom because we were so pissed off at him getting the messages first, or like the scorecard first, because he couldn't watch. He was so nervous that he had to know straight away what was going on. And then it was just it's that cutthroat nature of, joy to despair and just like an instant of a game, which is brutal.
I went to the toilet. I didn't see the finish.
Oh, but
I was like, we're done.
But even in games, you hardly watch.
Oh, I hate it.
You hardly watch at all.
No, I don't.
You're one of the most nervous. Yeah, like Paulie at World Cups, I reckon Paulie grows an extra arm, extra leg. Like he just becomes a superhuman, bowling 145, bowls. Gets some of the best batsmen in the world out. And when Paulie's on, is easily one of the best bowlers in the world. And it's always World Cups. I don't think it's just his personality likes the lights and the theme, but. He is one of the most nervous cricketers beforehand, leading to games. You're a little bit more calmer this year, but previously, you can't watch the batting innings. Like, is it still the case?
Oh yeah, betting. Any team I play for in general. I think it sort of always happened back home. Like Dutch age group cricket, even sort of the start of my Dutch team, like especially the first couple of years in a Dutch team, like we're a team who could score 300, but no one scores 100. Like I haven't seen many Dutch players score 100 in 11 years of cricket. But we always get like competitive scores or big scores on the board. But like it is everyone chipping in. But that means if no one is chipping in on the day, we are on the side for 120 and we lose the game. So like that kind of thing, like when we lose a wicket, I'm like, oh, it's going to be one of those days. And I don't want to give that sort of negative energy or like nervous energy to the team. So I just stay in the change room away from everyone and watch the game on TV if there's a TV in the change room or whatever it is.
There's quite a lot of cricketers like that. I've Hamish Bennett back in Black Caps cricketer. I played with them in Wellington. He was exactly the same. There's a lot of batsmen that just they're so gutted that they got out that they just don't want to face the music. They're just like, okay, I can't watch. I have to just stay in the same position. Or like, what's your nerves like? You
Yeah, I'm a bit of a cricket, nuff, so I just overthink it a lot. So I've recently switched to a crossword in the dugout, and I've tried that for a bit. Copped it a bit from the coach on the last tour about asking everyone to finish my crosswords in the dugout, but no, it was good fun. Yeah, I'm also a bit of a nervous one, so I've tried to sort of think a little bit less, think about batting a little bit less, think about bowling tactical stuff a little bit less, just to try and perform a bit more naturally and go out there a little bit more with a little bit more of a rawness, I guess. Yeah, I've tried that over the last, but it's been working better at least.
That makes me think of, we talk about resources. In New Zealand, we always have access to a sport psychologist within domestic cricket. A lot of the England teams will have access to sport psychologists. Netherlands and Namibia, I'm sure there's probably not enough resource to have a sports psychologist. So how have you guys gone about? You guys have been playing now for over 10 years. How have you gone about your kind of sports psychology side without having necessary access? Or have you reached out to someone to help you on that side? And what's your journey with the mental side of the game been like?
Oh, non-existent, to be honest. No, I think many of our teams' sort of mental kind of game that we've played has been based a lot around the culture that you create yourself. We've had that being installed by our new coaching staff since 2019, and I think we mostly relied on that, to be honest, as opposed to some professional or someone adding on extra value, which obviously for obvious reasons, resource reasons, we haven't had the ability to get anyone in. But yeah, I think that's where you support each other when in associate cricket. That's just one of the many examples where you make do with what you have. We've always said that we run a tight ship, and if there aren't some things on the ship, well, we better be rowing harder. So that's kind of the associate vibe that you have to have if you want to make it out of there. And that's just what we've done over the last 4 or 5 years, I guess. In many aspects, like in terms of nets, in terms of bottled water at training, in terms of all the other things that you'd get and you'd not even think about that in a professional setup, like where we're at now. Yeah, I guess it keeps you sort of grateful for what you have when you go to World Cups and you come to tournaments like this. It keeps you grounded a little bit to think about the past days in the 2019s when we weren't fully professional. We were drinking out of taps at training, and at Wanderers in Windhoek. So, having come that long way, I think it's a journey that's extra rewarding, I must say.
So do you read in terms of when David comes back? I imagine he's a great resource for the guys in terms of getting knowledge and experience out of him. Is that mainly how you've kind of gone about getting that? How do we deal with pressure? How do we deal with the situation? Or how do we deal with setbacks and things like that? Is that, again, just you guys togetherness, talking about it? I read this book the other day, or this player said this, or is that normally the case?
Yeah, and I mean, it's an information era we're in. It's so easy to get videos online and this and that. So we've got about 8 WhatsApp groups, one for each aspect of life, nutrition, S&C, mental side, and try and share stuff on there. Try and be a little bit savvy. If you don't have the resources, the personnel, then try and get someone to do some research for you on a particular topic, and there we go. So, and then, as players get their own experiences, they share it. So the likes of David Wiese obviously brought in so much for everyone. It brought in an example of actually how to do it as well on the field with you. So what better way than to learn from your peers? And as we've grown over the years and experienced it in World Cups, I think that's where everyone has seen it for themselves. Even the youngsters have now seen that, okay, this is how professionals operate. This is how guys operate under pressure. It's not just the captain talking a load of bollocks, or the coach that consistently has to remind us about a load of stuff. It's basically comes back to that exposure again, I guess.
And Paulie, what's your journey with kind of the mental side of the game?
I've had a bit of exposure when I was playing some county cricket, but I think I barely scratched the surface of it. I think when it comes to sort of maybe the mental thing, I think we had a Dutch trip to the Caribbean, and Feiko Kloppenburg, who's a bit of a Dutch legend, he said, control the controllables. And I think that's sort of what has stuck to me. And in general, I get wound up about the things that I control or think I can control, but then all the stuff that's uncontrollable, I think over the years I've learned just to let it go and just, it is what it is. And there's not much you can do with it. But other than that, I don't think I've spent a lot of time into that sort of aspect of life and with cricket and maybe help that develop my game. But again, from a Dutch team perspective, it's the resources. I think now with it becoming an Olympic sport, we can look into that aspect a bit more, and maybe nutrition and a few other bits and pieces. I mean, we have an S&C with a lot of experience in the Dutch team, so we've got the knowledge within the team as well. But then now you're talking again about someone who's an S&C, then does he have to be the team nutritionist and the psych and whatever? So I think we're quite lucky in the setup that we have a lot of people with a lot of knowledge and experience and stuff. So it does. Oh, hello,
wifey.
Hello, wifey. We've got that. We've got a very good coaching staff, and we get these consultant coaches in with a lot of experience and a lot of how they've coached like the big players like an AB de Villiers or whoever it may be. So that's sort of your way in how did AB deal with it, and a little bit like probably the David Wiese example. Yeah. So that's it. But I can't say I've really dived into the psycho kind of things.
Is there the best piece of advice you received from a big player over the years that it's gone, whoa, I haven't even thought about that? Or what's the best piece of advice? That doesn't necessarily have to be from a big player, or it could be a coach.
One recent one that stood out to me was I was chatting to Andy Flower about sort of premeditation and about not thinking too much about what the bowler's going to do when he's running in, because I have quite a busy mind then. And he just put it simply, well, the bowlers are so dumb, they don't even know what they're going to do. And that sort of stuck a little bit to me the last 2 years. And whenever I've started overthinking a bit again, like, oh, he's definitely looking to go back a length. Yeah, he's definitely trying to mind read the bowler. I just thought about Andy saying, well, he's too stupid to know what he's doing. So
brilliant.
Yeah, it's one of them.
Well, the one thing that's always stuck with me is control the controllable.
Yeah.
So that's, I think that can be on the field as well. Like if you ball top of off and a batsman tries to play a scoop or a reverse scoop or whatever, and then it comes off, it's like you bowled the ball that you wanted to bowl and it went for 6 or whatever. You can't control that, so there's no reason to be upset about it. So I think that's one of those things. And I think I don't know, it's not something someone ever told me, but it's like what other people see. So like for me, it's like I always play with a smile. So I've realized over the years that when I'm smiling and positive and just enjoying myself, that's when I play my best cricket. But it's like not an advice that's been given, but it's almost an advice that's been given by people, seeing you, or like, at one stage people called me Smiley, or the supporters at Somerset called me Smiley. And it's like, all right, well, actually, yeah. And then you start thinking. So it's almost the advice that people have given me without knowing they gave advice. So like those two things always stuck to me. But yeah, other than that, I think, a lot of the stuff can be said, but mean the same thing. I guess like control the controllables is one of those things. But, I think that same advice is like bowlers don't know what they're doing. It's like, also for me, I translate this like control the controllables. Like you can't control what the bowler's doing, just watch the ball and whack it kind of thing. So like, for me, I don't know. I just always bring it down to those two things when advice comes or whatever it is. It's like, okay, can I control it? Yes or no? Or why am I not smiling? Because like we've got the best life in the world. We travel the world. Our hobbies, our jobs. So it's like there's no real reason to be like down and out.
No, it is. It's like when you're deep in the cricketing bubble and you're constantly comparing yourself to the other cricketers or other lives. Okay, he's getting that, he's got that, he's getting this, he just scored this, he just took this, he made that team or this, and it's like you live in that bubble, and you can be very caught up in I haven't got this, and this, but then you take another kind of wider view, and you realize, oh, hold on, we're in Toronto playing cricket, or we're going to a World Cup and we're playing this, and we get paid to play. It's like sometimes we can not realize, we are just playing a game, and how do we enjoy that game? Okay, do this and this. And I've definitely gone through, countless different waves of expectations and not just enjoying the competition, just putting way too much on a situation or way too much on a game. And, it makes it not enjoyable. Which is tough. But I want to just kind of step back a little bit, and you guys are cricketers, professional cricketers. Who is Gerhard and Paulie outside of cricket? What have we been doing outside of the game that's kind of post-cricket life? Gerhard, I know you studied law a few years ago.
Yeah, I went to Stellenbosch in Western Cape area, beautiful place to study. Lots of wine farms, beautiful women. It was a very good life down there for 4 years. Cricket took a little bit of a backseat then, just playing whenever available outside of studies for Namibia. We used to play in the first class competition of South Africa. And then some nice uni cricket, but I guess it definitely took a backseat for about 4 years. Namibia hadn't been on, like this level of ODI cricket, constant World Cups, this and that. And then basically after getting my degree, came back in 2018, 2019, and it just coincided to be a good time for cricket in Namibia. We managed to qualify for area status after 6 months of doing the law thing. I almost lost my senses, but luckily we were able to get professional contract and then go into cricket, and been chasing it ever since. Got married, about hopefully to have children.
So let's fast forward maybe 10 years time. Would you go back into law, or would you stay in cricket? What's right now, if I had to say you have to do something, what would that look like?
Oh, I love cricket, man. I must say, I definitely love cricket. I'd love to stay in it in whatever means possible. But, life gives you different seasons. And if that has to change, I'll probably have to accept it and do the law thing. It's very nice. Obviously, if you've worked really hard to get a degree, then you have the comfort and you have the security of a fallback. So I try and see life in that way now and try and enjoy it. I've always tried to maybe be a little bit too ahead of myself and try and, I must be playing better cricket at this stage in my life. I must be earning more. I must be with a law degree. I must be, at least be in that social tier of life or whatever. But for now, it's been brilliant the last 5 years. And if I have to use that one day to keep keep me alive, then I will use it. If I don't have to, then I think that's probably the route I'd rather go. I don't want my dad listening to this because he's waiting for me to come back to work. So, probably cricket's probably the first choice, to be honest, Logan.
Yeah. And Paulie, what's been your outside of cricket life?
Yeah, I don't have a fancy degree. I wasn't really made for studying. So for me, it's like I've really enjoyed coaching. Sort of before I was a full-time cricketer. So like going back and into coaching, hopefully be involved in the Dutch team after my playing days. Probably not as quick as a turnaround as Jimmy Anderson has done, but maybe be like an assistant coach or a bowling coach and help the Dutch setup and maybe breed a few more fast bowlers in Holland. That would be nice. I mean, if that's a possibility that we don't know. Obviously, set up a player association. So, see where that takes, and maybe the experience that I learn sort of in that form of representing players or representing people, if there's my interest, just feeling my way around. So yeah, there's a lot of things that I'm interested in, but I haven't narrowed it down yet.
And you both got another 4 or 5 years easy to play, and the opportunities around cricket now, playing tournaments like this, GT20, IL, T20, BPL, there's tournaments kind of all year round, so there's no reason to be in a rush to jump to the next thing, because the cricketing opportunities are so great. So it's keep the body fit, keep going as long as possible. What would be the dream? You mentioned getting back into Netherlands cricket, getting back into Namibia, or giving back to the associations that you played for. What would be your dream in 10 years' time for when you look at Netherlands cricket, when you look at Namibia cricket? What would you love to see?
I think full-time setup. I think where the men and hopefully maybe all the women have got full-time contracts or a mixture of full-time and part-time contracts where we can really have a core group of players focusing on the cricket every day of the year. I mean, we've made some good steps this year, but then depending on the funding next year, we might have to cut. We can keep it the same, but can we improve it? That's probably the biggest challenge. Hopefully we can keep it where it is at the moment and, start working on, getting another contract in and getting the values of the contracts up and, have that base of Dutch players that can just play all year round and train all year round and just focus on cricket instead of I get April, that's when the cricket season starts. That's when I'm focusing on my cricket. And then when September comes, it's like, I need to maybe have a part-time job, or now studies is going to take priority again. And then I don't touch a cricket bat for 6 months, I don't bowl a ball for 5 months or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden, they're another 2 steps back from where they were last year. So then first half of the season, they make up to it and then they make another little bit of a progression. It would be good to see a group of 20 guys training all year round together and not, I can make this session on Monday this week, but I can't make the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday session. And next week I can make 2 sessions, and it would be nice to have that core group of players that can just come to every session and live that full professional cricket lifestyle.
Gerhard?
Yeah, we've basically, my dad's basically been in cricket Namibia forever, so we're sort of, we've all invested in cricket Namibia a fair bit, and it'd be great to see more Namibians take on the game. And we've really had a struggle to sort of develop the game to all areas of the country and to all demographics of the country. And to do that, you need obviously academies, you need fields, you need all of that. Namibia have just started with with our own facility. We're hosting 2026 and 27. We're hosting ICC tournaments and building a beautiful stadium, beautiful grounds down there at the moment. And also very fortunate to say that we've built a field on our game farm. It's been something that my dad, great man of cricket in Namibia, he's just loved it so much, developing cricket in the country, and he's taken it upon himself to build a field in the desert, which we've seen is kind of tough. But yeah, to develop the game on the farm and on Cricket Namibia's new facilities would be great, and to take it to all demographics of the country to get more local people playing the game. That's where I'd like to see it in 10 years. Having everyone benefit from perhaps a good cycle of cricket that we have. That's one of the legacies that our team, the current team, will definitely have in Cricket Namibia. But there's now an opportunity over the next 10 years to really build on that and take it one step deeper.
2027, do you guys automatically qualify?
No.
You don't?
No.
But you're hosting...
I think Zim does. Zim as a full member nation. I think them in South Africa do qualify.
Yeah.
But we're co-hosting with Zimbabwe, South Africa, yeah.
And so you want, because so USA got a automatic qualification.
They just said it's T20 World Cup versus 50 World Cup.
50, of course. Yeah.
It's debatable, but not now.
No, well, that's it. Like, sometimes it takes someone to go, all right, I'm just going to take it upon myself. Yeah. I love the game. Let's build a ground. That's amazing. I'd love to actually go there and see the ground, plus go on a game drive as well. That'd be awesome to see some of the animals. But that's amazing.
Last year in November. Aren't you coming? November?
Yeah, March.
Yeah.
But
March.
Logan's busy.
Logan's busy.
Logan's busy. Also playing cricket. So
yeah, the other half of my life in New Zealand. But it's it's something where you start in an environment, and you want to leave it in a good space. And then when 10 years on after that, you would love it to just keep growing and look back and still be involved. I think that's the part where we're trying to get better at with the past players in Holland, is actually connect the past players to what's going on now, because there's a lot of past players that have gone on and done really well with their work and been very successful. And I think there's an opportunity there where we can connect with past players who love the game still, have great memories of playing for Holland, of playing for Namibia, and going, hey, let's invest and improve this, or let's invest and improve this. And that would be my dream, to be able to kind of see it thriving, see it, get to a World Cup semi-final, even a final, or, be in the top 10 nations. Well, I don't know whether how the full member status and what Test cricket will be like in 10 years' time, and whether all nations will be full members. Who knows what that cricketing landscape is going to be like. But just to finish off, 4 or 5 years left in the game, 10 years left in the game, who knows how fit you guys are. What's something that you would love to do, achieve, experience in the game of cricket before you hang up the boots?
I know mine. Especially since it's been announced not too long ago, it would be the Olympics in LA. That's in 4 or 5 years' time.
Yeah.
I reckon it sounds like it's going to be quite a small cricket tournament. So it's going to be, again, quite a challenge for some of us or for both our teams to qualify. But if the opportunity arises and as a Dutch team can go to the Olympics, I reckon that would be my last ever game in a Dutch shirt.
Imagine that. I don't know if the opening ceremony will be on a river in LA, but I can imagine America doing opening ceremonies. It would be full. It is, as a kid, you grow up. I remember in primary school, you had to choose a country, and then you had to work out who their athletes were from that country, and then you had to watch it, and then I had to report back on their athlete and how they competed, and the gold medal was, such a massive thing, and cricket was nowhere near close to being in the Olympics, and now there's a chance. It still feels crazy, but if it's a reality, then they'll get me in the game as well. Definitely. Gerhard?
I guess do well enough to not have to go back to the law degree. I think before the end of your time, you definitely want to leave some sort of legacy in your country that you can carry on with. Being a part of the sort of leadership that have transformed cricket in Namibia over the last 5 years, that's definitely something that we can proudly say we are proud of what we have done. But to now put that all together and make it a bit deeper, as I said earlier, and really take it to the heart of Namibia, you'd probably have to qualify for another World Cricket League cycle. So over the next 3 years, you probably need to dig in hard to try and get enough points to stay in World Cricket League for another cycle of cricket, and everyone has, I guess, enough money to be able to contract the next guys and so forth. So yeah, it's probably just that type of legacy.
No, it's a fun lifestyle. You know, we're very lucky to be here in Toronto now. And I went to Niagara Falls yesterday. We'll go to ball games. You guys go into the city, you know, and then we play you guys tomorrow, Vancouver Knights. You guys in a couple of days' time, the Montreal Tigers. And it's fun. It's fun to compete, but also be able to be here and jump on a podcast and hang out with the guys and get different perspectives and different experiences, and you know, have some very big stars like Davey Warner, Stoinis, Narayan. Like, just seeing him bowl the other day up close was just like, this guy is an absolute genius. Very cool customer as well. You know, he knows he's got a special skill and he turns up, delivers. Thanks for coming. But it's a great experience, and thank you for coming, sitting down with me. You know, it's something that is the hardest thing about podcasts, is getting guys time, and thankfully we've got a little bit of time. So thank you very much for joining Follow Through with LVB.